Okay, so you guys, we're live and running. You don't have to start yet. I told everybody we'll be starting officially at 6:30. So yeah.
Hey,
hi everybody.
Make sure to post in the comments and maybe relay your questions to us so we can incorporate you into the room.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do y'all need anything before we start?
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Nice to see you. It's been too long.
Who needs? How about you? Okay, you've got a beverage. Do you have a beverage? You might want one. Okay.
I saw you out.
Oh my gosh. He said that she spoke to you today and talking about Kelly's and I'm like, oh my god, does that get you a starter for you guys?
That's what she said, exactly. Yeah, take a seat. I want to check your mic. Can you say something for me? I cannot hear you. I don't think your mic is on. Let me make sure we are all. We have the right one on you. I mean, I can hear you, but not like your mic. Let me grab Jen. like your regular you voice. I'm gonna eat it. Okay, talk for me. Talk. Say hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy, can you hear me? Hi, Amy. Test for me.
Talk for me. Talk.
No?
Say hi, Amy. I can hear you, but your mic is not working. I'm hearing you from this mic. I'm gonna turn everything off and. Okay. Those are in.
I'm gonna take it
Thank
down.
you. Please do. Is it tight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yep. I've got blue lights. We're just gonna go with it, and it's gonna be fine. See, like, can you hear me? Like, you can hear me clearly on the. So you can definitely hear my voice, and I can't necessarily hear yours. Hopefully it'll be better when everybody's a little bit more quiet. Okay. Okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm fine. Are you okay? All right. Yep.
It's so fun. There's so many. And you're fine to be in the sense that are in front of the camera. How are you? So glad you're here. Good. Very good. Good to see you. Yes, you guys go on up. Hi, thanks. So fun. We're so excited. We are going to try and project pretty loud. The microphones that we have on are not actually for the room. They're for Facebook Live. So can everybody in the back hear us? Stephen, can you hear us? Yeah. Okay. So thank you for joining our Creative Arts Biz Lecture and Workshop series. We are so excited for you to be here on our first launch. I'm Jen Seibert. Hello, hello.
I'm Michael Schuett. I work with Jen at College.
And
I'm an English professor, not an art person.
He's
From a different perspective.
a closet artist. He wants to be an artist. He shows us all the art stuff, which is fun. We have been office meetings for the last 6 years. And while we go to all the museums together, the faculty mentor on the art club with me, one of our favorite things to do though is across the office, we talk about small businesses, we talk about how we can help our students be successful in the world, and this has been on our heart for a long time. So, can everybody hear us? Is he okay? That's so crowded. There's 2 chairs. While people are getting situated, if on your phone you wanted to look up Creative Art Biz series on Instagram and Facebook and like and love us, that would be great. While Mike and I are the moderators, Amy Pagan is also the moderator with us. Hi, Amy. Hi. She is the marketing specialist for the city of Plano, and she is helping us try to promote this on Facebook Live. So we are live in the room. Okay.
Should we go through the setup of the?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, so tonight we're setting up our series with 10 minutes of our guest lecturer's story about their business and their story, followed by some Q&A from Jen and I, and followed by some Q&A from everyone here and on
And
Facebook.
on Facebook. Yeah, type in the comments to Amy. She'll relay to us.
And then we're going to do a hands-on workshop with the theme we're talking about tonight, for a whole roadmap to set up a small business.
And if you're joining us online, or even after the fact and you want to share with others, you can find the workbook that we're working on at PlanoArtsCoalition.org. Arts Biz Lecture. Plano Arts Coalition is a big supporter of ours and has been in on helping us build this series. So this is just us saying who we were. We already did. We did want to quickly say thank you. Sarah Eggleston Akers, she couldn't be here tonight, but she is the founding director of the North Texas Performing Arts, and she is our sponsor for tonight's event. She helped us buy our microphone, she bought all the treats that you can have before you go, and has really been a strong supporter in the cause. Me and Mike, Amy, who I introduced, and then Linda. Linda McCarley is kind of why this started. She is the president of the Plano Art Association, and her and I were at lunch, and she asked me, as the faculty mentor of the art club, what do you think your students want? I was like, that's a tough one. What do you think your art association members want? And so we talked, and it finally came down to that people want to be successful with their creative endeavors, and they want to make money. So in comes the project. So we get all these people in the room. Susie Jones, who has so gratefully offered our space. Thank you, Susie. She's in the back. The president of the Art Center of Plano, Amy Darrow, and the marketing strategist, Carol Graysdorf. They all met with us, along with Sarah Akers, Laura Grunler, who's the visual arts coordinator for Plano Independent School District, and Mike Mazur, who's the president of the Plano Arts Coalition, and is the theater manager for NTPA. So we all got together and we said, how can we pull this off, and why would we do it? So I think if you've been thinking about entrepreneurship, you get 1,000 links every day about sign up for this, buy this thing. And we just wanted to do it local. We wanted to create a network where we could help one another and be the reason that we have success. Because what I have learned in my small business is that we need a team. So thank you to all of us. So in the next 12 months, there's our visual arts coordinator right now. In the next 12 months, we'll have different artists, creatives, theater, musicians, maybe a hairdresser. It's not just painters. It's not just photographers. Florists, all different creative entrepreneurs that are going to come in. And I'm going to start it off tonight because this is our kickoff to kind of set the tone for it. But I'll say this. I'm the one in the lineup that is making the least amount of money, which I will explain. What you won't hear in this series is how to paint, how to fire film, how to develop photos, how to cut hair cute. It will all be about the business. That's what we want to try and figure out tonight. So, in the spirit of business, please follow at Jennifer Seibert Studios on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, so Mike, you want to read us our questions that we're going to try and cover before we start kicking off our business?
So, as the ground floor, we're going to talk about creating a business plan. And so tonight we're going to talk about what do you create, make, or serve? Like, what is it? What is the product? What does that specific product look like in your world? What is the problem that that product is solving? And who is the client? Really specifically, who is the client?
Very specifically, yes. That's not cute. Oh, and just to say too, that some of you here joining us already have small businesses, but we think that this practice of like envisioning these questions as you keep going and growing is good to revisit. Okay, so I'm Seibert Studios. Seibert Studios started about 2 years ago, but by day I'm an art professor. I was a tenured professor for 10 years at Eastern Michigan University up near Detroit. And then 6 years ago, I moved home and got a full-time professor position at College. And something happened when I moved here. At my old institution, I made very ephemeral, very academic work that was not saleable at all. But I got to College and people said, how do you sell your work? And I was like, I don't know. I'm actually a professor. I'm not really a functioning artist, and that really bothered me. I was a functioning artist, but in an academic conceptual space. So Seibert Studios came to me. We talked about it all the time. He heard it from the beginning. He saw my really bad flyers, my really bad business cards. He saw all of it. So I'm going to kind of walk you how I use these questions on building my own business plan. So I'm just going to show you really quickly some of my work to answer, what do I make? I can't sell this stuff to people. This doesn't really work. It often would disappear when the show is over. My work is about transitions, transience, catching the ephemeral, which we'll get back to with my current product. So this is some of the work. And it was all based in the romantic landscape notion of ever-changing time, how humans were changing the landscape that we lived in, and how we had an influence over it. But then I thought, well, I'm trying to figure out my business. I make other stuff too. And so all of a sudden I'm getting confused, like what am I gonna do for my product? So I had the landscape leg. I also created things in regard to natura morte, dead nature, for the still life image, which was exactly the same of catching transients, thinking about time evolving. If you cut a flower, it will die. And so looking at that shift in time. Again, not separable. So then the answer becomes, what do I make? I make installations about evolving and ephemeral moments. Maybe my product could be landscapes and or florals. But how do I do that? So I figure out, maybe I can make drawings for loved ones of locations that they love, or I can make florals for special moments, maybe the wedding industry. And so I try it, and I don't have a business plan, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. So I start making these big drawings for people, making flowers for people, and this was painful. And my business plan helped me illuminate why this was such a bad idea. I'm proud of the work, I have fun making the work, but when I looked at it from a business perspective, but then I was making these. And from that set of things at the beginning, I was like, okay, my problem that I can solve for people, because it's the thing on my heart, is how can I capture a special moment for a client, period. That's my thesis statement. But I didn't know which route to go. I thought maybe I could sell to corporate spaces, realtors, really rich people that have lake houses, or the wedding industry. So it was like, not sure, or I have a network, I have a client. And in enters the small business plan. So I had to dust this off, it was covered in sawdust in my studio. And I'll have this here for you guys to look at later. And I'll tell you, my favorite part about it was making the pictures. Because that I understood. And it kind of gave me the fuel to build the plan. Working?
Never said technical things time.
So everybody has a worksheet, hopefully. And in your worksheet, this is on this page here, the business plan that I used was taken from the U.S. Small Business Administration. So I just Googled it, this is the first thing I found, and it seemed like a legit way to start. And I'm just gonna kind of run through that I worked out the executive summary so I could figure out my profile and my goals. I tried to figure out my company description, really figuring out what differentiated me from other businesses. I'm not going to read through all this, I've got to do it for pictures. Organization and management, service and product line, marketing and sales, funding requests, and we will get back to the financial projections at the end of my talk, which is really fun, because wait for it. So, the business plan made me do this. I should say this, when I was little, I used to love to play Office. So like, I love this. So with the landscape work, I did a cost analysis, and I figured out it's this amount of material, it's this amount of time, all the things involved, the shipping, the handling, the creating a certificate of authenticity, all this stuff. And I found out that I could make approximately $32.50 an hour. No, not good. But if I were making the bouquets, at the very low end, I could make $162 an hour, upwards to $300 or more an hour, depending on the size and the scale of the piece and who the client was. So the small business plan said, there's your answer. It also helped me really figure out those things I just mentioned. Like, where does this certificate of authenticity come into it? How do I do my invoice? How do I do my packaging, my shipping? And this brand story that has to be specifically directed to a very clear client, not just in the painting that I make, but in the bow that I pick, and the packaging that I do. And I can't tell you, poor Mike saw me go through all these different iterations of all this expensive packaging. When I finally landed on brown paper, it was really good. He helped me hand tie silk ribbons for hours one time. I found from the business plan, when you were doing your market analysis, that I was going to try it out with something my husband calls a proof of concept. So I tried it on my girlfriends. I made one for my sister, who's in the back of the room. And then this is my bestie from when I was 10 years old. And she has one of my very first paintings. However, she didn't buy it. Her husband bought it as a surprise as a 20th wedding anniversary. And this was so amazing to me at the moment, because what I didn't know then, but I know now, is my number one client is the husband and the mother of the bride. So it's like, through this market research and documenting it as I go, I'm starting to figure out where I can actually make money. So I make it more and more. And I start to get further along, and it's through the making that it's clicking more. End steps marketing from the business plan with the market analysis. And this company, Brides in North Texas, reaches out to me and they say, do you want to buy a one-page ad? And I'm like, okay, tell me about it. And then they're like, well, what's your marketing budget? And I laughed in their face. I was like, well, nothing. And they were like, well, one page is $10,000. And I was like, yeah, nothing. So we traded. And because I had made this business plan, I had thought about different ways that I could figure out how to use the currency that I do have, which are paintings for brides that are not in their hands right now. It's different in this market. And they gave me the marketing package, which was really cool. And I made paintings for all of their top executives and salespeople. I have that. That doesn't cost me anything. But what I really found from the marketing, from writing the business plan and working through it, is that it wasn't just the magazine. It then was the networking friends, which most of these ladies are in the room. Hello, all the arts people, thank you. These posts, most of them are not mine. Maybe 2 or 3 of them. Most of them are other artists, other vendors, other people posting. And it just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. And then that's how you find your clients. So, I'd like to say that the small business plan very successfully landed me on a product and a very specific client. It then took me to where I have this thing, which is clunky and covered in sawdust, that I never look at. And I ended up making a media kit from it that then I can actually give to other clients, other vendors, other marketing opportunities, and it has then helped me land other steps, which we will discuss in future meetings, how to make a marketing kit, or a media kit. So, the punchline. I made these numbers up for the financial projections. Year 1, I said I'd make $8,000. I really say specifically in there, I want to make enough money to cover my supplies. That's it. And my husband knows this. I just want to paint all the time. And if somebody can pay for my materials, done. Like Seibert Studios is a success. So $8,000 is what I came up with. I don't know what I made year 1. Year 2, I wrote the business plan in 2018. We're in 2020. I thought I had made $15,000, which we're at $16,000 for my estimation. But a few months ago, one of my networking friends from Fort Worth called me and said, hey, will you do a painting workshop with me for 17 people in a bridal party? So I left with $3,000. My friend Heather helped me. And I met my goal, $2,000 goal. So, and then you'll have to check back with me in year 3 to see if I make $30,000. Okay. But the key here is I am the smallest entrepreneur here. Like, I teach full time, I have 2 small children, I love partying with my husband on the weekend and at night, and this is all clean. So the hope is that when we talk to our other entrepreneurs throughout the series, we can see full examples of putting kids to college, right? Paying your bills and so forth. So that is a little bit of my story. And just as a reminder, all through the series, we want to try and help support one another. So if you can follow a comment, would be good. And then this is my pitch for our next artist who is here tonight, Andrea Holmes. She took my class
2013.
yeah, how many years ago?
12.
And ever since then, she has paid her bills. She's making paintings and paying her bills. She's going to talk a little bit about workflow, time management, how to stay afloat once you get started. She had came and talked to our art club a couple semesters ago, and it was life-changing for me. Like, I was excited about the content. So hopefully you can join us March 25th. The series is always the last Wednesday of the month. So now we're on to the questions. Oh, my girl was in the wrong spot. Sorry.
That's okay.
Launch one. Yeah, so the question part.
So for tonight, I'm just going to ask you a question, and then we're going to move on to any questions the audience has, and online, or online people. So Jen, let's say, and I'm asking this question because I know the answer partially. Let's say someone has a business plan. They've nailed down the product. They have the customer. Everything's like lining up for them. There's no business coming in, right after that. And someone walks up to that person and says, I'll give you $500 if you'll do something completely different than this business plan, right? I want you to paint a picture of my girlfriend's dog in charcoal when that's not your thing, right? What do you do?
Yeah.
It's cash.
Yeah, so he knows the answer to this. I was at FedEx Kinko's copying something for a workshop or an event or something, and they saw my pictures, the guy behind the counter, and he was like, you're an artist, can you make a painting for me of my girlfriend with her dog? And I said, no, I cannot, but I have a student who can. And then Dan ended up making $800 by making a commission painting. So I think that very specific client, which is our workbook, it's not really doing a business plan. It's like really narrowing down who you're making this for and what exactly you're making. The answer is just no.
It's counterintuitive, right? That you would think that if someone's offering you money, you should take it. But what could you be doing instead?
Well, I think that's it. So then I would be going to marketing events, I'd be going to networking events. I should say about networking too, at one point in the gallery world before children and beautiful husbands and so forth, I would go to the gallery world, which is often at night. I don't want to do that. I want to be home with my family. I want to party on the weekend and go to soccer game. Well, no, soccer's over. But I want to be with my people. So this industry fits so well because I was like, I can do this during the day. I can meet all these people and I can like hang out on a Monday morning and have a quick coffee and get a lot done. So it's like, how can you stay true to your own intention, your original thing that you want to make? I never lost that I'm catching a fleeting ephemeral moment. Like that hasn't ever gone away. And then by making a puppy dog painting for me probably wouldn't work. That said, I made a puppy dog painting for Mike quickly. So maybe we just...
Yeah, let's segue. Any questions for Jen about business
Can you
plans?
tell me more about the brand story? How did you come up with, what did you find out a little bit more?
Yes, so Laylee Amadi and Sammy Broomer are going to be here for lecture 3, and they're going to go really in depth with that.
Repeat the question out loud if
Oh.
you would, so everyone can.
Thank you. Yeah, the question was, can you go a little further in depth about the brand story and what that looks like? So we have 2 amazing entrepreneurs. One is a creative coach for a living. She's coming to our lecture series for free. And a lecturer. She was a photographer and she owned a dance studio. And then Sammy is a photographer. And they, I think, have said that the rebranding that they did is what really launched them. So for us, I think if I could go back to this, it's the thing of like making sure that you have at the kind of base level a set of fonts, a set of color palettes, that like literally Mike heard me struggle. I was like, can you help me tear all these silk ribbons? And are these the right color? And then I had all these, like my brother-in-law and my sister like saw me go through all this packaging, and none of that had to do with me making a painting. Like that wasn't the actual thing. It was about like, how do I reach this client? I remember my brother-in-law and I talked about like the unpackaging experience. Like that even had to feel like fun and ephemeral and quick and had to fit that kind of feeling. So it's like thinking about each little specific piece very carefully. I'm gonna leave the real good answers to Laylee and Sammy.
You have an online one. It's Carrie Higgins, and she just wants you to know that she loves you and you're amazing.
Stephanie says hello and she loves you.
source is from? Is that mostly from social media, or is it in-person networking?
Yeah. I'll just say it again real loud just in case. She asked, where do you think your largest income is coming from? Is it in-person networking? Is it social media networking? For me, I think it's a mix of both. Most of my sales come from social media, and I probably today get anywhere between 1 and 7 commissions a month. That's actually not where I make my money, and I didn't know that. So I outsourced to University of Texas Dallas accounting program, the master's program. They had a series of interns that helped me look at my finances, which they will do for you. And when we did the analysis, we found out that I'm making all the money at my painting workshops, which I didn't really talk about tonight. But I only started doing painting workshops because I was at a networking event, and this girl was like, her stationery shop blew up because she started doing little workshops. And that was what launched her stationery company. She's like, you don't do the workshop to make money, you do it to network yourself, because you have 17 people in the room and they're gonna tag about you. But it turned out I make a lot of money at the workshops. So they're like painting parties, but they're super academic, so I put a huge price tag on them and people pay it. Whereas my paintings are like a single dollar sign. I put it in here, if a cake in the wedding goes for $800 that's this big, then I make a painting that's this big for $900. Like, I keep it in the market that I'm in, which a gallery would be like, oh, that's so cheap. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm in my studio painting. Does that kind of answer it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the hardest part about launching your business and making the business plan?
Sitting with you on the phone one day. So Stephen said, what was the hardest part about launching your business? And when Brides in North Texas called me, and we went and had a really long coffee, that's when I was like, ooh, these coffee dates are really important. And they offered me this package. I was like, I don't even know if I want to tangle in this stuff at all. So I got Stephen on the phone, who's an entrepreneur himself, but he has like 27 employees. And he said, if you do this and make that many paintings, you're going to prove to yourself that you can do it. Like, so that thing of like, I like to paint, but I don't know if I want to make 8 paintings a week, right? Like, that's a lot of paintings, but they're so fun. And I call it a la prima, which is real, but like, I paint in Fast and Furious. And so I think like knowing that I could pull it off. So it's those kinds of like tipping point moments. Heather.
So what would be your number one advice for somebody who's more at the beginning stage?
She asked, what would be your number one advice for the beginning stage? Stay true to what you're after. Like all through graduate school and for decades, I made work about catching an ephemeral moment, and that has been so true on my heart. So leaving graduate school and feeling, I'll say it, feeling like if some of my graduate professors looked at this, they'd be like, sell out, sell out, sell out. But I can just be like, this is my true thing I've always wanted to make work about. I still feel like a real artist. I still feel like I'm investigating the same thing, but I'm sharing it like a 99-cent romance novel with people that want to read instead of this amazing classic novel that I'm never going to write, right? I'm smart enough now to know I'm not going to be in the Whitney, and that's okay, right? So instead of me just like painting stuff that nobody gets to see, I was like, yeah, I can get this into the hands of people for $1 instead of $4 signs, and have a lot of fun making it, and they're still paying for my art supplies. Lisa.
Who was your mentor, or did you have a mentor? And then my follow-up question is, are you mentoring Paying It Forward?
Stephen, my brother-in-law, I mean, we have talked for years. He worked for Microsoft for 15 years. Well, the question was, who is your mentor, and are you paying it forward? So he worked for Microsoft for 15 years, and then said, like, I don't want to have the corporate job anymore, and I'm going to go out on my own, and started his own company. So I think just for years of hearing these really cool stories of him owning something he was passionate about, and making it become something that he had control over, was really enticing. So I would call Stephen one of my big mentors. As far as like in the actual industry mentors, it is all these cute girls in these Instagram posts. Like, they have become this network that has been so amazing. And then this guy, who literally for 6 years has heard me talk about, like, what do you think of this idea? And then paying it forward, Heather, who's back here, she is starting Beyond Blue Art Studio and has started very successfully running a studio out of her home for small children. And it's gotten so big that it's shifting into working with adults. And she's constantly reworking her schedule so that she can keep taking more clients. And I don't know that I'd really call Andrea a mentor because she's doing this all on her own, but we definitely have talked over all the years about, like, how can this happen? How can it move forward? So I can't wait to hear her story next month. But I think with our students, you know, I'm always trying to say, what do you want to be when you grow up, and what can we do to do that? I think about Selena, who's here, that, you know, she had worked with me at Collin and just graduated with honors at University of Texas, Dallas. And, like, I'm excited to see what happens and, like, what we can do. And we've got her in a research journal under Mike. So it's like we're trying to figure out, like, how we can keep our students going. And then you guys, like, we just want to be a team.
And the exciting thing that we've been talking about for a really long time with the setup of the series is that things like Instagram and Facebook make this possible in a way that it never was before. So that students that come to me in a freshman level English class saying, I really want to be an artist, but my parents would never let me major in that, we can have a different conversation, right? That people can make money, and we've got evidence of that. We can point to people. And that's what's exciting about this series, is that it's sort of a game changer from maybe a 19th century academic model of being an artist to being an artist with a capital A and not starving.
And not feeling that you're not going to go to the Whitney Museum of Art. Like, I want to, but it's just not going to happen. Allie is coming in month 4, and her loving stepfather said, you cannot be an art painter. She was going to be a painter, and he said, don't. And she said, I love you, I agree, I'm not going to. So she went into fashion, merchandising, and marketing. She's come full circle, and now she has her own small business, and she's killing it. So she'll be here to tell us that journey, which we just love that story of, like, don't do it, but she made it work.
On that note, Jen, like, you have this amazing creative confidence, and not all artists have that. How do you overcome fear and just get out there and do it?
Poor Walter, my husband, saw this PowerPoint 16 times. I think I mentioned that I liked to play Office when I was a kid. I will reiterate through things a bajillion times. If I could show you some of the horrible images in this book, I would be so embarrassed. But I think as an artist, our job is to get 100 no letters and be like, whatevs. Like, you just have to keep going. I want to find, there's one picture that I was like, oh, I would take that out of there. Well, even this one, like, it's just so yellow, and it's just not good, and the painting kind of sucks, and, yeah. So I think it's just like trial and error, and I know I have the answer for this. I have a good answer. I made a movie when I was at Eastern Michigan University, and Walter and I were at the release party afterwards, and this stinky guy was like, well, what are you gonna do now? Like, kind of like, that wasn't very good, and you're stuck. Like, oh, we've already got all these other things going. Like, we're already doing this other stuff. Like, we're already moved on. Like, that was fun, we're moving on. So I think and that's in next month's little workbook, is talking about, like, you always set up the next project. You just always set up the next thing. And then you can't really judge this tonight. Like, you just move on and, like, I've got projects to do tomorrow, and then, I don't know, we laugh about it a lot.
Yeah, but I think the other aspect of that, too, that ties into the question is that your business plan captured your passion in a way that was realistic and doable, and because there's that passion there, it can move forward, right? And I think that's, like, from day one, that was always there.
And that very initial, like, I make stuff that's ephemeral and transient. Nobody cares about that, right? Not really. But, like, how can I monetize that, and how can I find that client that is interested in that? And man, that bride, she's like, I paid $900 for this bouquet, and I'm gonna throw it away. And are there tons of other bouquet painters out there? Oh my gosh, bajillions. But you just keep trying.
Well, and to Laura's question about confidence, and you and I talked about this earlier, you also have to say, I'm an artist.
Oh, yeah.
I'm creative.
A couple years ago, I had a student say, we had this big conversation about do you ever introduce yourself as an artist? And I like kind of sunk, and I was like, I often introduce myself as a professor. And it's hard to say I'm an artist because it's this problem of saying, it doesn't pay my bills, I don't have insurance for it, and oh, I'm real selfish, look at what I make. Like all of that is just complicated. So instead, you say like, I make these little bite-sizable things, like a romance novel, for these people, and it's like a moment that they care about. But it's like small, and I don't have to worry about it too much. But, I mean, I worry about it a lot, obviously.
What are your plans for the future, and how do you plan to reach that goal that you have on the financial side? Like, where are you going to take your craft? Are you expanding to different sub-markets similar to what you're doing?
I have a girlfriend, Holly Morgan. She's a creative director at Fossil, and she's going to speak on the panel. And one of the first things she said to me at a Starbucks when I showed her my real, like it was worse than this version, was, what is going to happen when this is successful and you need to scale? Like, how are you going to do it? So I'm actually now, 2 years later, thinking, I don't know exactly how to scale because I just really want to take a nap. Which I do. Like, I prioritize, number one, like playing with my family and taking care of myself and not getting caught up in this. That's a good question. Because if I'm going to make that $30,000 goal, I don't know. Does anybody have an idea? I want to do the workbook. What time is it?
7:07.
Maybe one last question, then we can look at the workbook. We don't have to finish the workbook, but it then kind of puts the ball in your court where you get to think about what your ideas are for a small business, how you might want to move forward. And specifically, we're going to answer those 4 questions that I answered in the slides. And then we can kind of walk around and talk about some of these ideas. Amy will move the camera to on the screen, and if that's okay. Do we want any last minute questions?
I have a question. What is there a quote or something that motivates you every time you just want to do art? Like, what motivates you for yourself? Like, I know you have your family, but something for you.
You know, it's actually, the workbook is made for next month, and there is actually a line in there that says, like, make a mantra for yourself so that you can keep going. But I feel on the spot, and I don't know that I have one. I think it's just the no letter. Like, I don't care about the no letter. And if I can put 1,000 no letters into the world, I will get a yes. And I do think, my husband and I have talked about this, I've always had a really silly naiveness about me, where if someone was like, my graduate professor, before I started grad school, she was like, why are you doing this? I was like, I like to make stuff. She's like, you don't want to teach? I was like, I don't know, I just like to make stuff. She was like, don't think that getting a graduate degree is going to let you teach, because it's like 800 people apply for one job. There's 1,000 MFAs in the world. Like, you're not going to get a job. And I was like, I just like to make stuff. So it's that naiveness where I was like, well, I'm going to teach. Like, and they told me I couldn't, but I'm just going to send out 6,000 applications. And you know who hired me first? 2 friends. Right out of graduate school, I had a part-time job at Collin College in Brookhaven 23 years ago. And it's that network right out of the gate that got me that very first step in there. So, a little bigger to the no.
Follow-up question to that. How did working with a client in real life affect any of this? Like having that real person there.
I wrote that in the small business plan. I actually have letters in here, edited letters, revisions of those letters, where now all I do is in an Instagram direct message or in a text, I say, oh my gosh, I just hope you love this painting 110%. And if you don't, I will fix it until you're happy. That's now my letter that was like 100 letters long. And so 9 times out of 10, they're like, I love it. But that other time, they say, I thought it was more pink. Can I send you a new picture? And I'm like, whoa, there was no pink in that picture at all, but I'll fix that. Or, I don't know, they just have critiques, which I love. And it turns out that no, that little moment of no, is still my favorite part. Like, I love saying, like, I will fix it, I will change it, I will do anything to be painting. Like, I can be in my studio and I get to paint longer. So how fun is that until I make that person happy? I had one client that I accidentally mailed the painting. I had a stack of paintings and I mailed it before I got the confirmation. And she wrote back and was not super nice. and she never paid me. She got the painting, and like, so I was like, I can pay to have it shipped back. I'm sorry it got slipped out with the big shipment. I understand that it, you know, the oranges need to be adjusted or something. I can pay to have it shipped back, and I can take care of it for you. And then silence, so she had a pain. So, you know, you get the no letters, but I think it really is, you're just like, well, moving on. Make another project, like Laura asked, just keep going. Okay. Okay, so how about this workbook? I'll say this, I think we all need to go get a snack. That's what we need to do for a quick second. Is totally doable at home. So do you want to take a break? Do we need a little break? Are you good?
Okay.
You're good, okay, okay. So we may or may not get through the whole workbook tonight, but essentially, this first page with all the text, we'll kind of run through that, Mike and I, and it is the example. But then the following workbook component is literally just asking you those questions. What do I create? What's my product?
Can you please tell everybody where to download that if they're listening?
Yes, thank you. Creative Arts Biz, oh no, the bottom one, excuse me. PlanoArtsCoalition.org, Creative Art Biz Series.
Tell them what that's for, because they can't hear me mumbling.
Hi, yeah, okay. So for you at home, if you want to download the workbook that we're looking at, if you go to PlanoArtsCoalition.org, and then you go to the Creative Arts Biz link, you'll find the download for it. Thanks, Amy. I was honest. So then we'll just follow the questions that we've outlined here. What do I make? Then how does that turn into a product or a service? We're using all these words because it's very important that this is not for painters. It's not for photographers. Like it could be somebody that dances. It could be somebody that wants to be an accountant. I think that's a little bit, but you know, just business. We'll figure out what our problem is, and then there's the small business plan. So maybe we'll kind of break down the example for it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay. You want to start or me?
I can.
Okay.
Because the first one's easy.
Oh, yeah, good.
So in our example, what do you want to create, make, serve, etc. So the first one's fairly general. I want to make and sell food. Right? So then what?
Which is, I think, often what we might say. I want to make and sell things. Like that's good. A lot of us want to do that. But that might not be how we can find a specific audience. Okay.
So breaking that down even further, getting more specific. So someone might say, I want to make healthy fruit and vegetable, like health food, good coffee. I want to make decadent foods covered in chocolate or sweets.
Which is kind of like I want to make paintings and I want to make landscapes. Like in my mind, I was dealing with the ephemeral, but from the outside, they're like, this girl doesn't know. Like it was too confusing, so like really getting narrow.
Yeah, and maybe I can open up a cafe, maybe I can deliver fresh food to people who are busy at their apartments or their houses, right?
Well, and that too is that thing, like I think I'll make paintings, but I make most of my money doing these goofy little workshops, which are super fun, but like thinking through your different product lines. So then the next part.
Defining the problem.
So here's an example for that, and it gets a little more specific, but still lots and lots of questions. People are hungry and I like to make pancakes and maybe coffee, but do they want really big pancakes? Do they want tiny servings? Do they want to be healthy, buttery, covered in chocolate with a side of fruit? Do they want locally sourced honey? Like you have to think through your client really carefully to all those things. Like try to figure out exactly what it is. And for me, it's a 23 to a 33-year-old SMU bride. Done, right? Like very specific. How expensive are these pancakes? I have a single dollar sign painting. I'm okay with that. Like it's still fun to paint. Do they need coffee with it? I don't know if they really do. What if they're a weekend service? It's little kid pancakes. What if I just made a video to teach people how to make pancakes and monetized online? And I don't ever have to buy materials. So then my cost goes down. Who's my competition? A mom and pop, McDonald's, what do I do here? So the real question is, what exact problem are you trying to solve? What exactly can you do to help one individual person make a shift because of your product.
But again, kind of counterintuitive, the more you zero in on that person, the more likely you are to find that person, but you're also saying no to a whole bunch of other people too at the same time.
So then our example here for finding that client, there's two of them. Joe rides his bicycle in a Peloton every Saturday with his 25 friends for 3 hours through the suburbs into the country to get away. He and his 30-year-old friends are hungry at the end of a ride and weary from talking about complicated life stories. So you get a picture of this guy, right? Like he starts to come into view, so you can see your brand story. You can see what the cafe needs to look like. You can feel that minimalist affect that he wants. And he does want locally sourced honey, right? Like that those things all add up. They want a clean, minimal experience with moderately priced pancakes. This guy's got money, so I'm going to make a $3 pancake instead of a $1 pancake. And I'm going to spend money on food, which is very expensive. But I think I'm going to get that client to come in the door because I'm saying I'm helping your calorie count if you don't want to eat the pancake after your ride. He makes $100,000 a year. Like you really want to say, like, what's my audience? We've talked about this forever. I make 99-cent trashy romance novels, which I love to read. And I'm okay. Those people make a lot of money. They write them fast. Yeah, he's a minimalist who enjoys locally sourced products. But my husband was reading this and he's like, okay, we need the opposite of that so that you, when you're writing your own person, think of all your options. So our other option is Sally rides her bike to work every day. She's super exhausted at the end of her shift. And she works for a really grumpy boss at a convenience store. So she's surrounded by nasty Doritos and candy bars. Gross. Like doesn't want it. She sees all these grumpy people coming in. She's like, I need fresh fruit. She wants to serve her kids healthy dinners, but she just can't get it done. Her budget with her hourly pay is really inexpensive pancakes. But she needs them delivered to the house for a small fee. So how could you do that? Right? So it's not that I just make paintings, but like how to make a product to solve a problem. You have to give that really specific kind of approach. That whole bride, SMU bride, I was at one of the Brides in North Texas magazine launches, and I was sitting by a cake vendor, or some capers, and I was like, how's it going? How's your business? And she was like, I just blew up. And I was like, what'd you do? She's like, I niched down. And at that moment, I was like, how much more niche-y do you get than North Texas Bride? And that it was her line, SMU Bride. And I was like, whoa. But she proved it. Like, it totally took off because she had a very targeted, very structured market that she could sell within. It was pretty cool. Any closing thoughts on that?
No, I just think I've had friends do this in other fields, and like some people even come up with pictures for their people.
Will you tell us really quickly that story you told me about Mike's colleague who wanted to have clients that were females?
Oh yeah, so my partner has a counseling business, and one of the counselors underneath him for his business wanted to fine-tune her clientele, and when we looked at her online marketing, there's nothing that spoke to the person that she wanted to get in her office, right? So getting down on, and not being academic, not saying I want to be in a tradition of 19th century teaching or something like that, or getting super, like psychologically academic kind of driven language, but really speaking to that specific person and inviting them in, and telling them, I know who you are, I see you, they will come.
Well, and it's that idea too. I think what Kelly asked about the brand story, Instagram came up with stories so that you're literally like unfolding little, carefully curated, I will say, like this whole like pontificating whatever into the mic is not good, but like that you're crafting this story that unfolds helps that client find you. And it sounds like once she retooled, it started to work. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I don't know what time it is. My phone's on the thing.
7:19.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes. We were going to put 7 minutes on the clock anyways for you to go through and answer these questions pretty quickly and or just chat with one another about some of your ideas. And then our hope is that when you get home on Facebook after the live video, you could post in the comments, what's your problem? Who's your client? Like, give us some of that information, and that we can become a network to help one another. Because my number one thing, I think Andrea said, like, where am I finding my network? It's that. It's these people. Like looking you guys in the eye right now, and having that really one-on-one personal connection. My daughter, so a little sidestep, was selling Girl Scout cookies. We went up and down the block. Everybody that knew her and loved her bought 1,000 cookies. Everyone that I asked, because the mom was selling cookies, bought them that loves me, thank you. And the neighbors that didn't know us very well literally were like, thank you. Like, nobody wants Girl Scout cookies, not really, right? Like, they're buying them because they support the little girl. They're buying them because they support the troop. And I had a friend say, well, who wants to buy a bridal painting? I'm like, they're not buying a bridal painting. They're buying their moment. They're buying their memory. I'm selling them a capturing of a time. I don't know if they're ever going to look at it again. I'm not sure, but I fixed their problem to not preserve their bouquet covered in dust and bumps. That's my problem fixed. Yeah. Okay, so we have 10 minutes, so 7 minutes on the clock. Okay.
Can I make one request? Will you please repeat for everybody watching to follow you on Instagram and Facebook and give them the address? And if y'all would all please take a picture tonight and post it and at us at Creative Arts Biz Series.
And I would love it too, as the entrepreneur of the night, which we will continue. Follow me at Jennifer Seibert Studios on Instagram, and I want to get better at Facebook. It's not my client base. Facebook is not the 23 to 33-year-old that's the new bride.
Are you ready to say?
Okay, so PlanoArtsCoalition.org, Creative Arts Biz Series link. This is on your worksheet too, everyone that's here. So, yes, and our Instagram is the same, Creative Arts Biz Series, and our Facebook. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you want to say bye to everybody online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.